chose urban education and being in a classroom as my way to spend my free time. I have a few truths I live by, and I think it's now when you're, sort of midway through your life that you can look back and say, oh, I do live by those truths, So I'd say one struggle that comes to mind that really, that I got through, I think, based on my spirit and my belief in my abilities, really showcased is, I was in consulting. I worked in industries that were very male dominated, automotive, energy. I mean, I found myself in conference room boardrooms with clients where I was not only the only woman, but the only woman of color, a person of color. And I think finding my voice in those spaces was a real struggle. I mean, to the point where I would research ESPN every night. And so I had something to talk about the next day. I mean, it was just sort of like, what can I do to have a voice in this room? And the thing that I remember was this constant pursuit of finding my voice in this space that really didn't care to hear me. I felt, and it all culminated. I remember I'm, grateful I was a male partner on my team who believed in me. And, we're in a room. And I remember there was a business problem to solve as an automotive company. I was in Michigan. And, to this day, I don't remember the business problem we were solving, but I remember I had the answer. I was sitting in a room and everybody's just sort of hearing themselves talk, and I'm trying to voice the answer so we can end the meeting and move on with our day, right? And I just can't, nobody hears me talking. I'm literally saying the answer they're asking for. No one hears me. And I promise you, I have no idea what came over me, but I stood up on my chair. I mean, imagine a room of 15 men, white men, and me. And I was 20 nothing. I mean, truly, okay, just out of college. But I knew the answer. And, after months of all of this, trying to find my voice, ESPN, all the things, I stood up on this chair and I said, if you could just hear me, I think we could leave this room. And they all just didn't know what to do. They were in shock, kind of like, sit back, this woman's on this chair, what do we do? So I gave the answer. And then I sat down underneath. I'm just sweating bullets. Like, oh my gosh, I just got fired. Like, I'm sure of it. Right. And, lo and behold, it was the answer. We leave the room. My partner comes up to me and he says, well, that took a lot of guts. And I said, well, I didn't know what else to do. I probably said the answer 4 or 5 times. And he was like, well, thank God you stood on that chair. And I was like, oh, thank goodness, So one thing I have to say is, I found my voice with my parents when I decided to go to Northwestern, and I used my voice in that conference room so many years ago. And I do, when I have a belief and I believe it's true, or an opinion I think could add a perspective in the room, I find that I rely on my voice now more than ever, because better to have said it and influence than have not had given myself the opportunity. And, let the chips fall after that. So that's sort of one thing I really, think is something I rely on when I struggle, at least when it comes to being heard, is not being afraid to use my voice.
With my team.